I spent 25 years ordained and serving in the Evangelical Free Church of America and in the Bible churches. My first Sunday here as pastor, and there's, everybody's here to see the new guy. And I'm out, and I go through those doors, and I just go down the hall, and somebody says, "Father." And I get halfway down the hall, and I stop and go, "Oh, were they speaking to me?" We don't use that term where I came, so it's all a part of the process of learning. Now it's one of those things you can play. I'm here because Peggy Murray is handling the workshop. She was going to do this. She said, "I'm doing the workshop, you do this." And since I take direction well from women, here I am. 4 to 5 years ago, our Sunday school was dying. We have a very stable, growing congregation, but as you move through those ages and they graduate and go on, the whole children's ministry shrunk down. And when I say shrunk, I mean between 2 and 3, 4 kids. And it was a huge concern. So our teachers took desperate action. They called a special time of prayer and met and prayed. We have since learned that we would be smarter and pray that God answered that within our zip code, but we just prayed. Bring children. Wherever they are from, bring children. About 3 years ago, I got a phone call from a guy I could hardly understand. His name was Father Samuel, and he is a Burmese pastor serving in Rock Island, Moline at an ACNA church. And there's a large Burmese contingent there, between 1 and 200, and so he is an associate rector on the staff. He also serves as sort of a focal point for little clusters of Burmese Anglicans all over this part of the country, of which there are quite a few. And so he calls me, and I guess he's done his research online, I don't know how. And I think they had some connection with Sandy Green, who was our bishop and was officing here. And so, it's basically, we want to come and bring a community, and they want to become part of your church. And I have no idea what this looks like, but he comes out, and on that first Sunday, about 40 people show up, and Burmese families are not small. There are little clusters of kids running everywhere. And it is so interesting to me that the first service we did here was a baptism service. And I mean, there's the bishop, there's me, Jim Nyland is a part of this thing, Peggy, Father Samuel. My wife is 5'2". Father Samuel makes her look tall. And so it's just a circus up here with all of this going on. And he goes back and leaves these people with us. And we're kind of looking at each other going, who can translate here? We really need some translators. What are we going to do? What we discovered was that God had already prepared and planted a number of people. For instance, Yvonne Hollies, a retired OMF missionary, a nurse in Thailand for 25 years. Thailand is where the refugee camps were that all the Burmese went to. Many of their children were born in refugee camps. Then a lady who's been here but not really kind of suddenly popped up, Dr. Diana Geisler, who's got a PhD in all kinds of cross-cultural. She does things here with Hispanic immigrants and understands cross-cultural. She gets paid a lot of money to do this at weekend seminars. We could not afford her. So she just does it gratis here and is helping us. She's now teaching ESL classes. Those are growing. And so all of a sudden these people were in place. And then there was a church full of people that were just dying to do something. I am not the kind of guy who says, things are changing, we need a plan, we have X amount of time to get it, okay, God, here's our plan, I hope you're with us because we're going. I just said, we're going to wait. We are just going to sit and wait until God does something. And he suddenly brings these people. Well, they realized transportation, they live over in Aurora. It's a 40-minute one-way drive. And so transportation is an issue. So the first thing we decided was they would like to have their children incorporated in Sunday school, both as a religious training and also as a cultural merging. And so there's a whole group of people here organized to drive. And many of the seniors here in this room are part of that, who go over. It quickly grew, and Yvonne keeps leaning on me. You know, Wellspring has a bus. Wellspring has a van, a big van. You need that. I'm thinking, oh, Wellspring's not going to loan us that van. They do things. They're a thriving, active church, and it's, you know, kind of like that story of the widow. Just to get her quiet, I am going to call and see. And of course, Billy Waters, well, I can't imagine why we wouldn't do that. Of course you can have that van. And so all of a sudden, here's the van, here's all these drivers. Now we've got someone from within their community who is driving and who has stepped up. And today, this is a story that took a little while to get here. These people are entry level. They work minimum wage jobs. They're struggling with the language. The kids, of course, learn it quickly in school. There are parents that just, and older folks that just won't learn it. And they're in apartments. They're trying to get acclimated to this culture. You know, I don't know if you pray for birthdays and stuff like that. But a couple of Sundays ago, we actually had our first celebration of a Burmese participant in this community who completed their United States citizenship. And they came forward. And I mean, it was a special time for us. And so we're thinking, and they're thinking, because they think in community terms, we need a van. And so these people, they take these little metal cans that you had to tear apart with pliers and screwdrivers, and I'm just seeing all kinds of trips to the hospital, and they're tearing these things apart. They collected, over time, $9,000. So the missions board said, okay, let's present it to the church. And I'm hoping that we can get up to $13,000. Well, somebody here hears it before it even goes public and sends $1,000, and somebody else writes a $5,000 check, and there's all these other people just contributing, and suddenly we're counting $23,000 and thinking and we had all kinds of issues about what van and how much, and we had to be sure they had a part in this. We're real clear that the Anglos don't need to be making the decisions. And so we got the driver and some of them in. And today, they completed the purchase for the van, and they will drive it here Sunday. It's an incredible adventure. And there are all kinds of stories. When we sent out the letters to the congregation, we forgot to pull the Burmese names out. And so they got the envelopes too, and they show up Sunday with these envelopes with this cash, and we're trying to explain to them, no, you've already given. You don't have to. They looked at us just with a blank expression, and they said, but it's our van too. Can't we give? And so they gave to the van, and then they gave to the church. And when they give, it's in cash. And so these two baskets are up here on that table, you know, just kind of stacked up with all these dollars. And every time we deal with them, we learn something. So I'd like to simply say, here's what I think we're learning from them. Because one of the lessons we've learned from the people who come to us. I've learned this with people who came to me for counseling. I learned to say, God, what do you want to teach me through them today? And so we have learned to say, God, what do you want to teach us through this community? You need to know that these folks have spent an average, it's just an average of 11 years in refugee camps before they ever got here. We have no idea what they've gone through. Most of these families are scattered. People are in camps. We have children who are in the hills in Burma fighting to be free. There are families here who know they will never see the rest of their family as long as they live. And they have made that sacrifice to come. They are deeply loyal to the church. The first thing they did was find a place to live, and the next thing they found was a church. Because they live as a community. They don't understand individualism. We're talking about vans, and we're thinking, well, you know, it's Colorado weather, and they all need trucks and vans to get around. Smart thing to do is to start buying you can get little minivans, you know, cheap, used, you know, begin parking one in each home. Man, they just blew that right off. We want a 15-passenger van, because where they go together. And we are learning what it means to operate as a community, and we are learning stewardship from them. I'm just astounded that these people work minimum wage jobs, pay their expenses, raise a family, and are generous. And they are methodical. Boy, you talk about planning and setting aside. Per capita, they are an indictment to the rest of the church because they are truly, truly generous. We are doing the difficult thing. Diana said it would be so easy if we just had an English service here and a Burmese service there, and we each, we're happy and, be warm and be happy. But we are integrating. So 4th, 5th, and 6th kids are learning Jesus Loves Me. We're going to sing that in Burmese and English, and we're going to sing it 4 weeks in a row so that everybody in the room can learn it. We are starting to have Burmese people read. In fact, we're going to begin, when the gospel is read, there will be an English reader and there will be a Burmese reader, so that we can say, this is a part of us. This is who we are. And we have no idea where God will take this or what He will do. I mean, going to church here for me is like on Sunday morning, God stops the bus and I get on and I don't know where we're going to wind up. It's not my show. I am an under-shepherd. I am the one charged with, just keeping us connected to the mercy and the grace of God. And that's what I do. And that's what we do with them. We go over there once a month so we can have a service in Burmese. And the ESL class, she's building it off of the Right To Book of Common Prayer. She's building it off of the service, so we've standardized our services so that no matter where they go, they learned how to say the peace in English. That's not a big deal for you. It's a big deal for them. Now they're learning the Lord's Prayer, and I've been told, you need to hear what it sounds like in the back because it's coming out in English now. And so just on and on and on. And you need to know that I am the least of these and I have the least to do with this. All the other people here from this church, and they're the ones on the front lines. God bless those Sunday school teachers who work to integrate them. There has been so much happening. They just asked, would you stand up and say something about it? I don't know what else to say other than we have just been astounded at what God did. But I will tell you this. If you ever have a need and you're going to pray for it, you had better sharpen that prayer. You had better make it zip code specific. At least Coda said, we are Baker, baby. That's what we're praying for. We're not going anywhere else. We were not that smart. Just bring us kids. And the Lord brought us kids.